Tulsi Gabbard made some news this morning when she published a video to her Twitter account formally declaring her exit from the Democratic Party. Now, this is done in preparation for a YouTube show and podcast launch, which is happening, I believe, in a day or two. So Tulsi wants to make sure she is officially branded an independent before she launches her career as one of our competitors. So just watch where you're going, bitch. That's all I gotta say about that.
Stay out of our lane.
Here, you stay out of our lane. That's right. That's right. Exactly. Make sure you don't step on any toes here, if you know what I'm saying. What I say you can come out here as long as you don't step on any toes.
Exactly. Yeah. You can come around. You want to open a little ice cream stand? That's all right. That's all right. Just don't get don't get too big.
Exactly.
Don't start going in the taxi business, the garbage removal, none of that. That's ours. You want to do ice cream? It melts. We don't like
right. It melts. We don't care. It's melts.
Messy. We don't like that. We don't like that.
All right, let's take a look at Tulsi's rationale for officially DemExiting.
Can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents, and above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war. Now, I believe in a government that's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government that is of, by, and for the powerful elite. Now, I'm calling on my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats to join me in leaving the Democratic Party. If you can no longer stomach the direction that the so-called woke Democratic Party ideologues are taking our country, then I invite you to join me.
All right. I got to say, before I comment on the substance of what she said, the nice thing about Tulsi, the thing that I appreciate about Tulsi as a...
The great skin? Are you going to mention the great skin?
Well, I'm not going towards great skin, but I'm going to a related place. As a content creator, we had to put this stream up pretty quickly. We thought, okay, at 3:30, let's go live. So we didn't have time, right? So I had to make up the graphics for YouTube. So I had to pull a graphic from this video that she made. And when you're freeze framing video clips to pull graphics from, you'll very often get, like, I'm sure if you were to freeze frame a video of me talking, you'll get a lot of
Yeah.
Tulsi, every frame of her looks perfect.
You always, whenever you freeze, you're like, I had no idea I bore that much resemblance to Peter Boyle.
Right, exactly. With us, you get the freeze frames. With her, every frame looks perfect.
Like
you can pause that clip. Any frame looks perfect, beautiful. Thank you, Tulsi, for that. As for the substance of what she said, I don't know. Did she say something about nuclear war? I don't know. I mean, that's a boring issue. I know nobody really cares about that.
Who cares about that?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I remember her saying something about the Democrats are taking us to nuclear war. I mean, what a snoozer. I mean, a lot of people are not
1955.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, come on.
That's
nuclear
war.
1950s. Yeah, right. Exactly.
God.
I mean, in all seriousness, that is the part that stood out to me. We are going to do a full segment this Thursday on our regularly scheduled afternoon stream about the J.D. Vance and Tim Ryan debate. I have a lot of similar commentary on that because the issue of nuclear annihilation came up there, and you got Tim Ryan standing on stage like a fucking doofus, just not seeming to be worried about it whatsoever. JD Vance is saying, wait, we should try and stop this. Right.
My family has always believed in service, eh? Right. We've always given service.
Right, exactly. And so a lot of the commentary from the left about Tulsi's resignation from the Democratic Party has to do with a lot of the culture war shit that she says with, yes, the anti-white racism and the anti-woke signaling. And look, that's part of her hustle. She's got to hustle. Everybody's got to hustle. All this thing, oh, you're a grifter. Tulsi's a grifter. The Vanguard boys are grifters. Jackson Hinkle is a grifter. Jimmy Dore is a grifter. Let me let you guys in on a secret here. We're all grifters. We're all grifters. Everyone on YouTube is a grifter.
They're going to drop that right in the ad when you try to run for Senate.
You don't like grifters? Don't watch indie media. We're all hustling here. We're all on our hustle. Yeah, this is all a game.
All right, come on. I was going to save this for the Christmas episode. It's hard out here for a pimp trying to raise the money for the rent.
Exactly. But look, I mean, yes, she does a lot of that stuff. She's carving out a niche for herself as the ex-Democrat gone conservative. She spoke at CPAC, right? But she didn't say she's joining the Republican Party. So she's kind of carving out a space for herself, like a Joe Rogan type, perhaps, in that sort of lane there. And look, the nuclear issue is a real issue. It's very possible that this is what put her over the edge. I mean, the Democrats have gone woke for a while. They've been warmongering for a while. But it's just this past week or so that Joe Biden admitted to a room full of donors that we are closer to nuclear Armageddon than we've been in 60 years. And no one seems to care about it. No one has anything to say about it. Anna Kasparian here, I'll put up a clip.
Well, and people who have anything to say about it are fucking Republicans.
Right, exactly. Well, that's sort of what I mean. No one in the space of people who are like, shitting on Tulsi for DemExiting have anything to say about this. Anna Kasparian, and I don't mean to single her out because there were many tweets like this. This is just the most high-profile one that came across my feed. Who could have seen this coming like 5 years ago? Ha, 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 ha. I'm sorry, Anna, wasn't it you who, in the immediate aftermath of the Roe overturn, you went on this epic rant, which we gave you credit for at the time, saying that you were done with the Democratic Party because they're useless? All of them, including the so-called progressives. So where are you now? What that tweet signals is that you're still a Democrat. All of this signals that we are still Democrats. Tulsi is no longer one of us. She was a turncoat. A turncoat from who? A traitor to who? A traitor to the Democratic Party. Right. Which is where all of this left of center energy is being funneled now. And the indifference on the Democratic side, the utter indifference to the prospect of nuclear annihilation. I won't even call it nuclear war because even that is sugarcoating it. Nuclear annihilation.
Okay.
I mean, where are you? Where are you?
So one of the things that's really difficult about being on the left is everything that and you know what? To be fair, I can't even say this is just left. It's just not swallowing corporate media propaganda. Everything that you say that could get you kicked off social media goes mainstream 6 to 12 months after you're saying it or trying to say it and trying to get around the censors to say it. So, guess what Newsweek publishes today? The U.S. needs to change course right now in Ukraine. And it does not pull any punches. This does not go halfway. This is not like a fucking Thomas Friedman article with its tortured metaphors. He actually says Ukraine, like Russia, is a deeply corrupt and oligarchic country, and Zelensky is a highly flawed leader. But despite his myriad flaws and status as a pawn of the Davos NGO globalist class, Zelensky remaining in power in Kiev is preferable to the obvious alternative. And then he goes on to say, hang on. Let's be as clear as possible. The median American citizen does not and should not care whether an ethnically divided, strategically unimportant, historically contested Slavic subregion or two in eastern Ukraine ultimately takes orders from Kiev or Moscow. Wow. Wow. You know, it seems like a lot of people were saying that a year ago.
Right, exactly. God
and you
forbid,
weren't allowed to.
Right. God forbid you be right before it's too late. I'm sure that article will do very well after the nuclear war if the Wi-Fi is good enough to circulate it.
If you can still get it. Yeah. If your bunker is radiation shielded.
Right.
No, this is what always happens. All of a sudden, you can say these things once the infernal momentum towards total abject destruction has gone too far for it to do anything about it. Once the course can't be changed, then they let people say things like this.
Right,
Exactly. At the moment when it could have an impact,
exactly,
they lock down the media. These opinions are not allowed.
Well, that's a great point, because that's a great point, right? You're allowed to disagree past the point where your disagreement would actually make any difference.
That's right. That's it. It was the same with Iraq.
Same with Iraq, right.
All of a sudden, everybody realized this was a bad idea when it was far too late. We were fully committed. We're there for years by the time the press said boo about Iraq. Because the contractors made their fucking money at that point.
Right, that's it. The money's already in the bank. They already got paid. The deal's already done. Right.
It's too late to cancel the checks now. One more point I want to make about Tulsi, though. For me, Tulsi is on this list of people who are very high-profile examples of how the Democratic Party, in its attempt to enforce absolute orthodoxy, absolute conformity, and to force everyone in the party to have one opinion, very often opinions that are deeply unpopular with most people in the country, including people who would not consider themselves necessarily conservative, just keeps driving very high-profile people who, if they played their cards right, could have been very powerful allies and surrogates of the Democratic Party away from the Democratic Party. Tulsi Gabbard is a great example. She was here you have this person of color who serves in the Army Reserves, has an officer status, continues as a congresswoman to be in the Army Reserves. Overall is on the left, but has some conservative social positions. Not enough really to drive her into the wilderness. Certainly not as conservative as, say, Hillary Clinton's vice presidential choice, Tim Kaine. That's how forgettable he is. I'm like, who was he? Tim Kaine. He was pro-life. He was straight up pro-life. That was okay. He could stay in the party. He could not only stay in the party, he could run as vice president. So, don't tell me Tulsi's too conservative. She didn't bend the knee to Hillary Clinton. That was it. From that point on, she was persona non grata, even though she could have really helped to bring some people who are a little more socially conservative along. She could have been a great spokesperson for the party if you had not treated her that way. But then after the Bernie Sanders campaign, this is when she really drove the nail into the coffin. When she went on her own fact-finding mission to Syria and met with Assad. And in the context of what she's saying right now, that was, you've often made this point, they were supposed to get their war with Russia over Syria.
Right.
And then Trump got elected, and they weren't able to get the war in Syria. So instead, they got the war they wanted in Ukraine.
Yeah, when we did our show the other day, I accidentally left that out of the timeline. During the 2016 campaign, Hillary was calling for a no-fly zone over Syria, which would have given us the proxy war with Russia that both the Democrats and Republicans wanted.
Right. And then Trump did not allow that to escalate to that level. And Tulsi was running around. Look, Tulsi is a veteran of Iraq. And historically, if you look at the people in politics who have been the most anti-war, they've been veterans because they fucking saw it. They saw what that's actually about. It's not saving fucking Private Ryan like you fucking shit libs are thinking. It's horror. It's death. It's destruction. It's children blown apart. That's what you are egging on. by listening to your corporate media, not at all thinking about the implications of all this. She was fighting against that then. As a veteran, she saw what we were trying to do, and she was working to avoid it in her capacity as a congressperson. Then they attacked her when she was running for 2020 because of comments that she made about LGBT. At that time, they weren't using the Q. The Q wasn't in there, because I went back and read some articles for this segment. It was LGBT. And they attacked her for comments that she made. Her father's a conservative Hindu. Kind of like born again Hindus, basically, very extreme conservative faction. And she made a very reasonable statement like, yeah, look, I was raised that way, like a lot of people in a conservative family. Unlike a lot of people, my father was very public, prominent figure advocating for these positions. So I'm on the record defending him and being out there for him. But she talked about her military service and how she served with gays and lesbians, and she changed her mind. She evolved. She grew. I thought this is supposed to be what we want. I thought we embrace people for that, right? We want them to grow. But no. Only if she had been a Democrat in good standing. If she had been a Democrat in good standing, that would have flown. But
right, then even if you don't grow, they make excuses like you did, like Joe Biden, who didn't grow very much at all. But they make, he did all that crime bill shit. That was, he was 28 years ago. Come on.
Yeah, come on. It was so what if he called Barack Obama the first black candidate who was articulate and clean? That was just Joe's old
gaff, that's just Joe being Joe.
That's Joe being Joe.
Right.
So Tulsi Gabbard, they very systematically did everything they could to not only drive her out of the party, but to turn her into a vicious enemy of their social agenda, because she was on the receiving end of how they selectively deploy it against people they want to turn into an enemy. So, of course, she's coming back with this very anti-woke thing. I don't think it's just a hustle. I think it's also a reaction to what they used against her. And I think that's true of Joe Rogan as well. Look, you started out with Joe Rogan endorsing Bernie Sanders. Of course, they tried to get him kicked off his show. Less than a year later, he's saying, yeah, I'd vote for DeSantis. So who wins? You had the most popular podcaster in the country, nominally a Democrat. Not exactly a Democrat, but nominally a Democrat. And now, yeah, of course, you tried to destroy the man. What do you think? He's going to turn around and be like, yeah, no, I'm voting for Biden. What did you think was going to happen? What did you think was going to result from this?
Absolutely.
That's what's incredible. How stupid are you? Don't you want to win? Do you honestly live so much in a bubble that you don't realize more people find Rogan appealing than find your fucking decrepit ancient mummy Pelosi fucking Schumer Biden asses appealing?
Right.
Rogan is somebody you should have tried to embrace and send out there to campaign.
Of course. No question about it. No question about it. There's one more point I do want to make about this Tulsi thing, and it is connected to Willie Bragg's comment here from the Willie Bragg Show. Hillary, Obama, and Biden were wishy-washy on same-sex marriage until it was safe to be for it. This brings up a good point that I've been meaning to make for a long time, because we have sort of positioned ourselves as an anti-woke left-wing show, and Tulsi has now gone anti-woke, but Tulsi had...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She's in a fucking lane. You stay over there with your fucking ice cream. I just want to read, Holly, I've been a feminist all my life, but this woke BS is akin to the fundamentalism I was raised in. That's what I see. That's what I think. And honestly, we had somebody a while back who was laughing at her saying anti-white racism. Listen, I know some people who talk like that, who anything that they don't like, oh, that sounds like white people. Oh, that's a white people thing. Oh, that was black, but then white people got a hold of it. Oh, that sounds like something white people would do. Now, listen, is it the same? Is it the same as if you filled in another race there? Oh, it sounds like something that any other group would do. No, it's not the same. I wouldn't be friends with people who talk like that if they talk like that about any other race. So clearly I'm conceding that it's not quite the same. Is it 100% not the same? No. No. If your psychology, if the way you think is to automatically blame everything that you don't like on a specific group of people and to characterize them all as having the same characteristics, thoughts, and beliefs, I hate to tell you, but that's fucking racism. It's by definition, that is racism. Now, saying it doesn't have the force because of the cultural and institutional power that white people have, it doesn't damage them in the way that it does when it's directed at other groups. I concede that. And that's why I say I would be friends with someone who talks like that. And I am. But don't tell me it's not racism. It is.
Well, that tangentially relates to the point that I was starting to make there, which is that Tulsi has rejected the excesses of woke discourse and the excesses of woke culture. But if you notice, she had an A record on LGBT issues as a member of the House. Her voting record on quote unquote woke issues was a perfect record. Yep. And just like we are an anti-woke show, I am as woke as anybody when it comes to a lot of the actual policies as they relate to like liberal universalist values that we are all equal, we should all have equal rights. I was for gay marriage, speaking of what our pal Willie said. I was for gay marriage in 2004 as a 17-year-old when all of the adults who I would talk politics to said, well, we can't say that because it'll cost John Kerry votes if we say that, right? Because the Democratic Party isn't for it. They don't want it. Okay? So I'm to the left of all you motherfuckers. I'm woker than all you motherfuckers. I've been where you motherfuckers were at 20 fucking years ago. So don't fucking lecture me that I'm not sufficiently enlightened. You didn't know what the fuck anything. You had corn in your Walkman and you're cutting yourself while I was for gay marriage. Okay? So just fuck off with that bullshit. You know nothing. You know nothing. You're a bunch of fucking morons. This is not about politics. This is about discourse. What she is rejecting are the excesses of woke discourse, which are doing nothing, by the way, but empowering the right wing. Okay? So if you actually care about these issues, you should approach them from a liberal universalist standpoint. This way you might actually win, and you might actually give some power to these marginalized groups who you pretend to care so much about since 2017. Okay? Because at the rate you're going, all you're going to do is lose them ground. Because nobody likes you. Nobody likes you. Tulsi doesn't like you anymore now either.
Right. That's it. Look, that's, and I was hanging out in Greenwich Village as a 14-year-old with drag queens, bisexuals, gays, lesbians, and then I would go back home to working class Flushing and tell people this. What do you think they called me? Because back in those days, if you hung out with people like that, you were that. And being that where I came from could get you a serious beatdown. You could not be that in the Flushing of my era, in the Queens of my era. You tell this to these woke people. Yeah, no, don't try to pretend to be an ally. That's not good enough.
Right.
You don't get any cookies. Who the fuck are you? And this is, look, I'm old enough to look at these people and know something that they don't. You are the same exact people who would have run from these people when I was coming up. You're the same conformist, upper middle class types who never like to make any waves. So in your era, this is the way to conform. You're conforming. But back then, you people, the way to conform was to be against that. And that's what you did then too. It's the same exact kind of people, just in a different age with different values. You don't actually have fucking convictions. If it was hard to believe this, you wouldn't believe it. If there were social consequences, this is not what you would back. You would not be out there speaking out about rights for these groups if, as it was when I was coming up, there were consequences for it.
Please clap.